From the edge of the ocean to the rise of the sun. This is more than a trip, this is how it's done. West Coast breeze in my wings as I glide. Golden sunsets, let the highways decide. Redwoods talking, mountains telling me truth. Every mile adds wisdom, every stop adds proof.
From deserts that whisper to cities that scream, neon lights mixed with an American dream. I don't rush the journey, let the land educate. Every border cross feel like I'm leveling fate. I ain't lost, I'm learning. Every turn keeps earning more than views, more than fame. I'm chasing knowledge, not a name. I'm flying like an eagle, coast to coast, over rivers, fields, and stories untold. Searching for freedom, searching for light, from west to east, yeah. Day to night, I'm flying like an eagle through the land. Every state got truth in the sand. This is America, seen wide and free. Knowledge my fuel, sky under me. Flames roll wide like pages in a book. Small towns teaching lessons you overlook. Factories humming, campuses alive. History breathing just to show how we survive. Through heartland roads where the stars feel close. Every face got a story, every town got hope. I don't just visit, I listen instead. Cause wisdom ain't loud, it's what's quietly said. I ain't here for postcards, I'm here for the wise heart. How they live, how they grow, how the roots shape what they know. I'm flying like an eagle, coast to coast, over rivers, fields, and stories untold. Searching for freedom, searching for life, from west to east, yeah. Day to night, I'm flying like an eagle through the land. Every state got truth in the sand. This is America, seen wide and free. Knowledge my fuel, sky under me. Freedom ain't just space, it's understanding. Knowing the ground where you're landing. Past and present in the same frame. Different voices, one shared name. East Coast skyline, sunrise gold. Cowbirds, classrooms, stories bold. From cobblestone past to modern halls. You feel the weight when history calls. I came for the journey, stayed for the truth. Every stop sharpened my vision, my youth.
What's good, family? Welcome back to the channel. I'm E. Millions Williams, your tour guide for today's journey. Before we get moving, do me a quick favor if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and lets us keep bringing you these deep dive travel reports. This week, we're traveling to Washington, D.C. But we're not here just to visit, we're here to understand why D.C. ticks. This city isn't just monuments and museums. It's power, policy, education, culture, and everyday life, all layered into one place. Throughout this series, we'll be breaking down a full travel report. What it's like to be here, move through the city, and experience it as a visitor. And just as important, we'll be covering a quality of life report, how people live, learn, work, and build futures in the nation's capital. So lock in, stay curious, and travel with purpose. Ikuzo.
Hey, what's going on? You're here with Emil, and we're going to be talking about DC, the political climate and history. We're going to try to be apolitical as possible, not taking sides, left, right. We're going to be in the middle, and this is more of just understanding what kind of political issues DC has in its entirety. That's the purpose behind what we're here for. So the political climate of DC, the congressional representation is 0. DC has no voting senators. U.S. House representations is 0 voting members, 1 non-voting delegate to the House. The delegate can sit on committees and introduce legislation, but cannot vote on final passage. So that's something that they are looking to change. As far as presidential representation, electoral college votes, they have three. Granted by the 23rd Amendment, which was introduced 1961. Can DC residents vote for president? Yes. Can DC residents vote for Congress? No. The key political numbers: voting senators, 0. Voting House members, 0. Non-voting House delegates, 1. Electoral votes, 3. Statehood status, federal district. Local legislature, DC Council, 13th members. The mayor is Muriel Bowser. The governor, they have no governor. DC is not a state. It is a federal district. So it has a mayor, but no governor. Therefore, is losing a lot of powers that it had if it was a state. Washington, D.C. is the only U.S. capital where residents pay federal taxes, serve in the military, vote for president, but lack voting representation in Congress. This has fueled long-running debates over D.C. statehood and representation. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be looking at the political party strength, and then we're going to look at the demographics in voting practices. Okay, so it's going to be a Wikipedia article that we're going to be looking at. All right, so when we talk about DC, their strength, the following table indicates the party of elected officials in the U.S. federal district. With the enacted 23rd Amendment, 1961, they're able to participate in the presidential election. It is part of the Blue Wall, having voted for all Democrats nominees since 1964. The majority of residents want the district to become a state, which we are going to try to figure out and talk more about. Since 1990, the shadow senators and shadow representatives emulate the role of representing the District of Congress and push for statehood alongside the non-voting House delegates. All shadow Congress people elected have been Democrats. So this is a little chart. If you notice where it says Executive Office, District Council, if you notice that it's been empty all the way to 1974. So it really didn't have any of those until 1974, I'm assuming. And then the delegates, they had one person, Newton P. Chipman, in 1871 to 1874. Then they started back in 1971, which we're going to go over. As far as the shadow senators, if you notice, no such office was there until 1991. As far as the electoral votes, they started in 1964 with Lyndon B. Johnson, where they went Democrat. If you notice, what they said was their electoral votes have all been Democrat all the way from as soon as they've had a little bit of say, they've always been Democratic. They have never been Republican. You can go ahead and think of your own about why it's like that. I'm not here to really go over that. So when we talk about the mayor, the first mayor was Walter Washington. The second was Marion Barry from 1979. He was there for a long time to 1990. Then you had Sharon Pratt Kelly, 1991 to 94. Then Marion Barry regained from 95 to 98. From 99 to 2006, it was Anthony A. Williams. From 2007 to 2010, Adrian Fenty. From 2011 to 2014, Vincent C. Gray. And then from 2015 to present, we had Marion Bowser. And after that, as far as the AG, if you notice, there is no AG up until 2015, which was Carl Ressen from 2015 to 2022, and then Brian Schwabs from 2023 to present. As far as the district council, if you like to learn to figure out more of that, you can on your own. Again, all of this presentation is on the description. So if you like to know more about it, go ahead and go to the description. And then, of course, they had delegates, and all the delegates have been Democratic. And also the Shadow U.S. Senate, which started in 1991, they've all been Democratic except one independent who was in there from 2014 to 2016, Michael Donald Brown. And of course, again, if you notice a pattern, the shadow representative have all been Democratic. So that's what we got going on there. All right, so let's talk about the demographics and voting practices. If you notice a pattern, they've normally been Democratic. Voter registration numbers are high, but more needs to be done to increase participation. So as of November 30th, 2025, there were 473,145 registered voters in the district between 2014 and 2020. Voter registration steadily increased each election cycle, though has decreased since then, in part to due to cleaning the voter rolls. Estimated 93% of DC adults are registered to vote based on the most recently available data, 2023 data. Most recent available 2025. The district population aged 18 and up was approximately 508,700, with 473,145 residents registered to vote as of November 30th, 2025. Approximately 50% of registered DC voters are Black, 31% are white, 6% is Latino, and remaining 13% is unknown ethnicity. These estimates are within 5 or 6 points of the district's overall population, but do not reflect voter participation rates. In primary cycle 2024, 92% of registered voters were Democratic, 6% were Republicans, and 1% or fewer were Libertarian or statehood green. Party affiliation across the wards was relatively consistent. Only wards 2, 3, and 6 had more than 10% of their voter registered for a party other than Democrats, 11%, 11%, and 12% respectively. So if you notice what they said earlier from this article, 50% were Black, 31% was white, 6% was Latino as far as the racial build up. If you're not familiar, there are 8 different wards in DC, and it shows you the turnout. It seems like Ward 3, and then it's a tie for second for Ward 6 and 2. Then Ward 1 was 4th. And we're tied with 1 and 4 was tied for 4th, and then we have a few different ones that as far as voter turnout. So the ward that shows up the most tends to be Ward 3. So if you like a deeper dive into that, we will be going into a deeper dive into the minutia when it comes to DC. Not in this video, in another video. This again is going to be more apolitical than anything, and then after that we're just going to show you the numbers so you can make up your own mind as far as the general and primary presidential year. As you see, 71% of the registered voters showed up, and the general, as far as the primary, only 26% showed up. And after that, in 2022, if you notice, it is a difference where they showed up more in the primary this time, which was 32%, and only 41% showed up in the general. As far as the presidential election in 2020, it seems that more people showed up for the primary, less people showed up in the general. Let's look at 2016. It seems like less people showed up in the general and the primary. All right. Key political issues included the biggest political issues in DC in 2025 were centered on a series of conflicts between local district government and federal control, primarily driven by the new presidential administration's agenda. Federal intervention in home rule. So let's go ahead and I will be showing my guest. Me and my guest should be okay. So interesting. Yeah. So my guest is not there. My guest should be showing up momentarily. So let me go ahead and go over this, and then after that we're going to take care of the business. Federal intervention in home rule. A central and highly continuous issue was the federal government's assertion of authority over local DC matters, challenging the district's limited self-governance. Home Rule Act, law enforcement and crime. The president declared a crime emergency in DC in August 2025 and issued an executive order to temporarily seize operational control of the Metropolitan Police Department, MPD, and deploy the National Guard. This was met with significant local opposition and legal challenges from DC officials, who argued it was an abuse of power and noted that local crime rates were actually declining. Another incident that happened was abolishing the BLM Plaza under pressure from congressional Republicans. DC Mayor Muriel Bowser ordered the removal of the Black Lives Matter mural and renaming of the plaza to avoid the loss of critical federal transportation funding. So, federal funding cuts in DOGE, the new Department of Government Efficiency initiative, led by figures like Elon Musk, implemented significant cuts and freezes to federal funding across various agencies and programs, heavily impacting DC area nonprofits and public health services. So give me approximately 45 seconds. So give me 45 seconds. Uno momento, por favor.
He accepted that midnight when Sandra alone was leftover takeout and
All right, go ahead and put the TV on mute. So, so as far as yes, turn it off if you can. Well, you can turn it down. We can listen a little bit. So, the reason why I've invited Charles is a DC born native. He has spent many years in the DC political atmosphere, and it's always good to talk to your elders who know more about the makings of the place. We're going to try to talk about this in a political tone as possible. At the same time, if you have strong feelings about what's going on, you can talk about it. So what I'd like to ask you about is the law enforcement and crime, as far as the how the president declared a crime emergency in DC in August 2025. Like, what have you been hearing from your colleagues that may still be in the DC area? Mr. Charles.
Well, basically, the problem is the president believes DC is like it was 60 years ago, where it's mostly black, 80% black and crime riddled. He doesn't understand that things have changed. So if he really doesn't see the new mayor as someone who is really progressive and has a very good listening ear, and the fact that the demographics of the DC, 50% of DC now is black. And that's a big change, and that should relieve some of the pressure that the national politicians should have about the crime in DC. So they should really release the pressure they have on DC and let them rule themselves as far as the crime.
Okay. So as far as abolishing the BLM Plaza, again, this is something that Mayor Muriel Bowser basically was pushed to remove. How do you feel like that's probably affected the spirit of DC, since you are familiar with how it was before, and you probably are familiar with how it is after? How do you feel like that has affected the spirit of DC?
Well, I'll give you two different responses. One, I was disappointed in the mayor, but I understood the mayor having a gun put to her head to have something done that was cosmetic versus financial for DC. So she had to make that decision. But the other one was the Black Lives Matter Plaza. If you ever walked on it, it was a very wonderful production. And it was right down near the Capitol, near the White House, about 2 blocks from the White House. And it was a very, very positive expression of where people could really enjoy themselves, and really Black Lives Matter was a place where they could gather. It destroyed me to see that destroyed like that, brick by brick, and it just represents what the current administration is trying to do to the whole country, the government of the country, and its relationships inside the United States and outside the United States. They're trying to break them down just like they did the Black Lives Matter Plaza, one brick at a time.
Okay, and the last part of this one will be the federal funding cuts in Doge. As we know that it was led by Elon Musk, and I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene was part of that too, where they cut various programs as far as freezing and as far as various agencies and programs that heavily impacted nonprofits and public health of DC itself. What have you been hearing from the people who actually live in DC? And how are they feeling about it?
Well, the people who live in DC know they're going to make it through. They know that they're going to find a way to work with the DC government, the Maryland government, the state of Virginia, or the federal government to win, because that's how strong small business is in DC. But they've made it very, very difficult for people who are used to having jobs, people who work as federal government employees, people worked in some small businesses that were subject to large federal contracts. They really have destabilized some of the workforce. And that's something that's concerning over the next period of time. We're not looking at how the unemployment rate really is, and when we just, downplay, or when we take the responsibility out of people's jobs and really downplay their jobs. When you're underemployed, you really have a job, but you're really underemployed. So there are a lot of people underemployed, a lot of people are not employed, and over the next year and a half, prayerfully, we can find a way to get these people reemployed and active, because the economy in DC represents the whole economy of the United States, and it needs to be effective. Otherwise, the government can't be effective.
Okay. Let's go ahead and continue on. So, local governance and fiscal challenges. Hold on one sec. Yeah, so beyond federal interference, the DC government managed several critical local issues amidst significant budget pressures. Budget shortfalls, the district faced a challenging fiscal situation for fiscal year 2025 due to weak economic growth, the loss of one-time federal relief funds, and the persistence of remote work, which strained commercial real estate and tax revenues. House and affordability. The city grappled with an affordability problem and debated policies, including zoning law reforms to increase housing supply and attract residents, as well as the juvenile justice. There was ongoing debate and congressional oversight regarding juvenile crime and the effectiveness of the DC Council's soft on crime policies, with some federal lawmakers pushing to ban practices like cashless bail. DC statehood, the long-standing desire for DC statehood, which would give residents full congressional representation and independence from federal oversight, remained a key political and civil rights goal with renewed urgency following the federal interventions. One thing I have to say before we continue past this one, when we talk about the soft on crime, it is believed that one who can get a cashless bond is only difference of someone who has a cash bond is the fact that they have money, and that does not determine if they're going to repeat the crime just because it's cashless. Just because it's cashless does not mean they're going to repeat. All it means when it's cash bond versus cashless is I can pay to mess up and I'll be out tomorrow. So this is something that we need to look at. The national political issue reflected locally. As the nation's capital, DC was also the stage and focal point for broader national policies debates. Immigration. The city experienced an increased presence of immigration in custom enforcement, ICE, agents and National Guard troops as part of the administration's hardline deportation efforts, leading to large protests. When we talk about the health and social policy, the administration's actions regarding abortion access, the definition of sex and gender identity in federal policy, and the potential repeal of clean energy tax credits all sparked significant political controversies and protests within the city. Government efficiency in administrative state, the implementation of Project 2025, which aims to dismantle parts of the federal bureaucracy and place independent agencies under direct presidential control, was a dominant storyline in DC's political landscape, leading to government worker layoffs and protests. So this is something that we really need to focus on, and this is one of the primary reasons why Mr. Charles is here, so he can tell us about the statehood, because he has been in those meetings about statehood in the past, being a part of many committees, to my understanding, being a CPA, going actually to a few government buildings, to my understanding. For more than 200 years, the residents of Washington, D.C. have been subjected to systematic inequality and denied the full rights of citizenship that the residents of state enjoy, including voting representation in Congress. It is time to right the great historic wrong. If you'd like to read more on this, you can actually go to the website statehood.dc.gov, and you can actually read more into it, but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is I would like Mr. Charles to talk to us about DC statehood and how it affects just the governance of DC itself.
The fact that DC statehood has been in the works for many years. I think you pointed out earlier, it was, I think, first passed in 1961. But people may believe that that was the last time people worked on it. But every year, the representative of DC has been bringing up the bill to make DC a state in different forms. And they've been having different levels of the in this case, the House of Representatives, because that's where the representative is. Different people in the House have brought it to committee and have sometimes brought it to vote. But the fact that there is a perceived bias toward Democrats in DC, the Republicans don't want to hear anything about it, even though DC has a larger population than, and that means they have one non-voting representative, and some smaller states have 2 voting representatives and 2 senators that vote. Make that make sense. But we have to figure that out. And that's what's been going on for quite some time. And so the question is when there'll be the right level of morals and ability to act in the Congress. Sometimes it takes an extreme situation. And the fact that now the United States is seeing what it feels like to have someone who's in charge who may not be listening to what you think, and they're trying to run your government. You know, they may see what DC is like, because in the last 60 years, DC has tried to run their government. They've come up with ways to deal with their crime, deal with their population, deal with their homeless, deal with education, and deal with all of the aspects of living in DC. But they've been subject to the federal government having the Republicans and Democrats in this case, the House of Representatives or the Senate, come in and make a rule or just knock down the budget that DC did. You know, DC can come through with the budget, and then they can come through and say, well, we don't like that because you didn't allow our gun control rules. So unless you allow us to have guns in DC, we won't, you know, they may not enjoy the budget changes. And that's really because gun control has been a big issue in DC, that's been holding up the statehood. They don't want handguns in DC. I don't want handguns in DC. Doesn't make sense. But you know, there's a lot of things that are not like the federal people are trying to impose on DC, and they just don't realize DC is just a city. It's not a state. You know, we don't have farmland. You know, we don't have pastures. You know, they just have pretty much commerce, as they say, a liquor store or the church on all the corners. That's what's in DC, in certain parts of it. And then the parts that are not, 100% federal government, and they just dominate downtown DC. So DC has to become a state in order to deal with the federal government footprint better, because the federal government right now dominates DC and does whatever they want on the streets, bringing in the crime preventers, quote unquote, the National Guard. And they do it on the budget by removing the budget and saying you can't do this within your budget because we don't want you to, because they still control the budget from afar. And so it's just like you telling your 10-year-old child, you can make all the decisions in your life, and then they never let that child make any decisions and grow up. They always treat them like a 10-year-old child. That's what they're doing in DC.
Okay. So let's go ahead and wrap this up and provide just 1 minute of just your thoughts on growing up in DC as far as the political climate, and how do you feel as far as the future goes for DC?
Well, growing up in DC, I didn't realize I was in Washington, the nation's capital. Many times when I was in elementary school and middle school, I used to look at a map and see Washington State and not ever see Washington, D.C. and have that confusion that young people do about Washington being over on the West Coast. And so you had to learn that it was a state. And then eventually I just accepted it as a place to live. But as I grew up, I realized that people who are not from D.C. treat people from D.C. different, and they become different people when they come to D.C. If you visit D.C., wonderful. You see all the national kind of mind. You feel like you really enjoy the city, and you get in and get out. and the people are great. But if you live in DC as a resident, you realize that the people who have moved to DC, who are mostly national government people, they have a whole different attitude to where you live. And they think that where you live is one place, and they want to take advantage of where they live when they move into your spot. They really want to take advantage of the fact that they're national and they come into your city, and they want to take advantage. They want the same kind of rights and privileges they think they have in their own state, which they really don't have in DC. Everybody's the same. You know, DC is a place you have to really grow up in. You love it, and you just learn that, man, I have to really work for what I need to get. And by the way, if I do what I need to do, I'll get where I need to get. But I really don't have too many bad feelings about growing up in DC as a kid.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, Mr. Charles. So next week we're gonna be focused on Pennsylvania's as far as their political issues, their political climate, and just to let y'all, again, we're gonna try to be as apolitical as possible. Make it a point to know what's going on in your local business as far as political climate, because you may not be interested in politics, but politics is very interested in you, and you cannot complain about things that happen if you do not bring your own voice. For those people who are out there fighting a good fight, continue on. And again, if you like to be more in depth on the democratic process, go to For Democracy. This is for travel lovers. This right here will be probably forwarded to For Democracy, but at the same time, this is more about just the feeling of the political climate for right now. So with that being said, I'm gonna bid you adieu, and we appreciate your time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what kind of issues you like us to bang out, and we'll go from there. With that being said, have a great one.
If you made it all the way to the end, I appreciate you. Thank you for traveling with me through Washington, D.C. If you found value in this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It lets me know you want more reports like this. Next up, make sure you check out our top 10 colleges in Washington, D.C. That video dives deeper into education, opportunity, and what makes the district a serious academic hub. And starting next week, we shift our focus to the state of Pennsylvania, new cities, new history, and a whole new travel and quality of life report. Confident Close. Until next time, Ikuzo.
He's at 20. Yeah, 20. Yeah, we got 20 total.
You missed it.
We got 10. I ain't been in my house for like a first.
I still panic. I still slightly panicking, friend.
Hey! Charles going over there.
Go, friend. Shake it. Shake some. Shake some, friend. Hey. Come on.
She did 10 too.
Come on.
Oh, you scored 10 too?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, she did. All right, my bad. All right, no, but I came back and scored 10 more.
No, you didn't.
Nah. She right. Hey, you gotta get caught with her. Get caught with her.
Yeah. Look at her. Yeah. Shake it. Hey. Go, friend. Go, friend. Shake it. Shake it.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Ow. Shake it with me, Prince. Flap something.
Hey, fluff something. Hey.
Oh, come on. Come on. Yeah. He can't hear the music.
Alexa, turn up.
Why everything in front of me? I'm sitting right here. Shake it.
Your sister.
Yeah.